The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
8 minutes after 8, welcome to the Forum at 8 here on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. Well, on Tuesday, I made reference to an article, an email that's been circulating about the allegations on what happened in Marikana and the involvement of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. The article is headlined, Marikana Massacre, All This to Protect an Oligarch. And it goes on just to make a whole lot of allegations. So this morning then, we are very fortunate to have in our studios Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa to come and respond to some of these allegations, but also just give us a perspective of what happened at Marikana. What is his view about Marikana? Mr. Ramaphosa, I thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Xolani. It's good to be with you and to have your listeners listening.
And thanks indeed for your time. Firstly, I must start with this article because, and you know, I'm just going to read the first paragraph for our listeners to understand what the article says. It starts off by saying, amidst all the confusion after the shooting of 44 protesting miners at Lonmin's Marikana Platinum Mine in South Africa, we should not lose sight of the astonishingly simple underlying issues. We are told the workers are demanding that their wage be raised to 12,500 Rand per month, but the workers claim their salary is already at this level. They say they are subcontracted by a company owned by billionaire South African oligarch Cyril Ramaphosa. He only pays them 5,400 or less and pockets the rest. I would like us to start with this allegation. It's a serious allegation. Do you own a company that is taking money from the workers?
Well, it is a serious allegation and quite a sensational one for that matter. Of course, the truth is we do not, Shanduka does not, or nor do I own a company that's involved in labor broking, because that's precisely what the allegation is. So the only involvement we have with Lonmin is that we're a shareholder, and a shareholder who invested 300 million, and the 300 million, which is completely underwater, it's almost lost because the value at which we invested has really substantially gone down. And we have no other involvement with Lonmin, and we do not do labor broking. We do not have a company that does that type of thing. And it is something that we would never do. Why would we go and rob workers and form a company like that and take money from the company and pay them half of what the workers should be getting? We would never do something like that, and it's completely outrageous.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about your involvement with Lonmin. You own about 9% of Lonmin as Shanduka. But there's an allegation also made in the very same article about how you came to own that 9%. Apparently, Lonmin paid a lot of money in order for you to be on board.
Lonmin did what you could call an empowerment deal some years ago, where it had a number of entities that were shareholders in the BEE structure called Ingwala. And the workers themselves were part of that structure. And when the financing arrangement were a bit difficult, we saw an opportunity to get into the boots of those empowerment entities. We invested 300 million of our own money. Then Lonmin did a vendor financing arrangement for us to be part of the deal, which in the end, the whole deal was worth 2.8 billion Rand. Now, a vendor financing arrangement is very common in all structures. For instance, in Shanduka itself, we vendor financed a group of women entities to be part of the shareholding structure of Shanduka. We financed them. And there's an interest charge that goes with that. Similarly, in Lonmin, after we paid the 300 million, we were financed to a tune of 2.5 billion. And it's as good as going to a bank. So the interest rates are bank-related. There's nothing like a sweetheart deal that we got. And we then paid out the number of other black entities that were part of this structure, including the workers. The workers who were part of that initial BE structure were paid out substantial amounts of money when we bought in. And our commitment has also been that we want to do another BEE structure for the workers,
Yeah.
so that the workers must also be equity players in the company that they work for. And
Right.
a community entity is also part of the Lonmin Empowerment
I'm going to come
Strategy.
back to the comment you made, because you say that the 300 million rand is under the water,
Yeah.
effectively all down the drain at the moment.
Indeed.
I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But this article, together with Julius Malema, among others, have then said 34 miners were killed to protect your asset. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's not to protect our asset, because for all intents and purposes, I mean, you could say that that money is lost. And it's money that we invested, and indeed that has gone underwater. And we accept it as such, because that's the risk that every investor takes when you invest money. Now, the killing of the 34 miners is something that is deeply regrettable, and I have regretted it, and I felt deeply saddened by it. And the one time I was as saddened as I have been now was after the 1987 Great Miners' Strike, when 10 workers were killed during that whole struggle to get mine workers to earn a decent wage. And this time I've been as depressed as that.
But the impression created here is that if it wasn't Cyril Ramaphosa's asset, who is a high-ranking ANC member, who is connected, a well-known business person in South Africa, the workers would not have died. They died simply because it was your asset that they were defending.
But that is really untrue. I mean, there are other shareholders as part of the Lonmin shareholding structure. The IDC, which is government-owned, is part of the shareholding entity, and a number of others, the PIC and many others. So could you say that all those workers died to protect those assets? And I think it's quite a ludicrous type of allegation to make. It isn't true. This situation that we have now, sad as it is, could have happened at any given time. And it so happens that because I'm involved as a shareholder, I tend to be the highest tree that catches the fiercest wind, and it can't be true.
But are you surprised that you're the highest tree that catches the wind? Because you've been involved in the mining industry for many years. You led the NUM, and people are saying that you, of all the people, should know the conditions and should have acted to prevent what happened in one way or the other.
The conditions that workers are exposed to in the mining industry are not yesterday's creation. The mining industry, we must all remember, has been the repository of exploitation and oppression and apartheid in our country. And it spanned over hundreds of years. And to eradicate those type of conditions is not an overnight type of thing. It will take time. And steps have now been taken. And all many of us are saying is that Marikana must definitely be the turning point for this industry. It must change the landscape of how things are done, how workers are treated, how workers are accommodated, workers are paid, and indeed the collective bargaining process must also change. And in some ways, it will also change mining methods. It needs also to address this whole issue of the migratory labor system. The Deputy President, Kgalema Motlanthe, is already on record as saying we need to change it in such a way that it is put on an international benchmark type of footing, like they have in Australia,